non-toxic iodine. I hope you're getting this. Yeah, that's right. Lugol's iodine is toxic, definitely if you take too much, and you can't take too much of ours. So is we've got Lugol's, and then we've got nascent iodine, and both of those you could get yourself into trouble. But we're not going to talk about those. We're going to talk about infinite iodine. And today, you know what we're going to call the show? And please pardon my French. It's called Screw the Flu. And the reality is most people don't understand what the flu is, that it's just a body's natural detox. And a virus is not alive. It can't jump 1 inch less 6 feet. So let's get that out of the way. And if you want to go look it up in a dictionary, you'll get the definition and you'll find out that virus in Greek actually just means poison, otherwise toxin. So now that we've got the BS out of the way, dysfunctional belief system, let's move on to talk about why iodine, but listen, infinite iodine is non-toxic. You can put it in your eyes, you can put it in your ears. We use it just before we do vaginal infusions. You can also put it on any type of skin condition. You can nebulize it and help to actually clean out your lungs, clean out your sinuses. It'll go into your brain, it'll go into your bloodstream. But, you know, whether you want to believe this or not, and Terry doesn't know this, but we usually have one person every 4 weeks to every 3 weeks call us up. I have a gentleman, okay, and this gentleman is a vet. He doesn't have a lot of money, so he's gone on maybe about 4 of our products. But what he does do, and he does it, and I said, you need to do it like you're addicted to it. He was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammation. They call it cancer. And guess what? Couldn't afford a lot. But what he did was he nebulized all day long. Not at the beginning. And at the beginning, what he did was is he took the infinite iodine, okay? This is the infinite iodine here. And what he did was he first started off with 3 parts distilled structured water using our structure unit and 1 part iodine. And then now he's using straight iodine, okay? And he went into his doctor, and his doctor said, guess what? His doctor said, we can't seem to find the cancer. Now, I have another practitioner out of Florida. Her name is Debbie. You might know of her. And she's out of Stuart, Florida. And she has a Celsonic, but she has a patient come to her. This patient was 74 years old. She was a smoker. She had stage 4 lung problems. Got her doing the infinite iodine. Of course, she did non-surgical. She also did Celsonic on her, but it was 10 weeks, and she went in, and she's clear. So understand, I'm not talking about cures. There's no cures. There's just changing your personality, changing the way you live, making different choices. And if you made the choice that actually helped to reverse the problem you have, and you kept doing it every day, why would the problem come back unless you reverted back into your old personality and your old habits? Anyways, let's bring Terry on, and let's talk about infinite iodine and screw the flu. Because understand something, infinite iodine will dismantle what people call a virus in approximately 15 seconds or so. What do you think, Terry?
Well, a lot going on, Daryl. It's always good to be with you. Screw the flu is an interesting header. Perhaps we can actually take people back for a little bit of an adventure here so that we can have fun understanding what iodine is, because most people don't know what it is. They've heard of it. They don't know what it is. So maybe we can go back a little bit in history.
Before you start,
Yes.
Can I say one thing, everyone? You'll see there's a ticker tape. Is there a ticker tape on here, Rafa? Good. And this is the biggest sale that we've ever done on iodine. Okay? Understand, we need the world to know about infinite iodine. We need the world to know that it's the only non-toxic iodine. We need the world to know that all the different uses, and that's what we're going to go through today, because guess what? Every orifice you can put it into is another orifice that is going to get it into your bloodstream and into your body to bring up your immune system. And guess what? There is not a baby, a child, a mother, a father, a grandfather, a grandmother, or anybody else, everybody needs iodine every day. Hey, Terry?
Okay, so let's take a little step back so we can understand our bodies and what we go through. And a good analogy that came from a doctor that I work with. He said, humans have been at war on two fronts since the beginning of our existence. One of them is we go to physical war, and we have evolved our physical war essentially from bows and arrows and sticks and stones over the time that we've been here to military programs that now have the ability to produce weapons of mass destruction. And that's how we are physically. And we know the damage that can be done because we see it every day on the news on how literally a country like Gaza can be turned to rubble. And it takes a long time to be able to rebuild that into new structures, new infrastructures, new buildings, so that people can once again live again. So our bodies are very similar. And on an interior perspective, we've been in a microbial war since we've been in existence. And the microbial war within us, we've got exceptional warriors in order to help defend and protect us. Well,
can I say one thing?
Yes.
Somebody's asking here. Yes, if you are on X, which used to be Twitter, if you're on Rumble, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on Doc of Detox Telegram, those four, right? Wasn't there five? Five. Rumble, Doc of Detox Telegram, YouTube, and X, which used to be Twitter, and Facebook. You can just put your questions down for Terry, and we'll come back to them, everybody, okay?
We're good to keep going.
Keep on going. My apologies.
No worries. All right. So the interesting thing is we've watched mankind evolve because we can watch the physical wars that we're in. And we know how many people die from them, and it's an extraordinary number. But on the other front that we're in battles every day is on the inside with a microbial war against the microbial world. And the fact is that industry, from a microbial perspective, where we started a long time ago when we were hunters and gatherers, there was a certain, segment among a population that were healers. And they would use what they had at their disposal at the time and their best knowledge they could use in order to keep people healthy. And the healers have evolved into medical doctors over the millennia. And now we have taken that into pharma, which produces all different types of products that we can ingest, some good, some not so good, for example. So when we talk about the science of what we've learned, interestingly enough, it was during a physical war when an accident happened and something was discovered. And we can go back to 1811. And one of Napoleon's gunpowder chemists was producing saltpeter, and they were extracting certain things to come out of seaweed, and a certain acid spilled onto the ash of the seaweed, and a purple gas came off. And they didn't know what it was, and it had to be the right environment because that gas recrystallized on metal pipes into a solid, pure crystal, and that they called iodine. And back at the time, they called it iodos for purple because that's how it had started. So the military had no use for it at that time whatsoever. They didn't know what it was. So it was just something that was discovered. And the alchemists of their era, you need to understand that the alchemists developed our periodic table to the point over a 25-year period in the early 1800s that 80% of the elements that are on it today were there 200 years ago, over 200 years ago. So they were pretty bright guys. And when it came to the attributes of this new element that was discovered, it then switched over to the medical side, oddly enough, because it wasn't something that could be used by the military. You're talking about a war that was hundreds of years ago, and what they were going through is different than today. But on the medical side, there was enough medical scientists and chemists of the time that looked at this element, and they started connecting the dots that people that would eat seaweed would actually be healthier and didn't have goiter that lived near the ocean. So this specific gentleman named Dr. Lugels put this together, and in his work, he figured out that there were different species of iodine, and that we really need to touch upon, because when people use the term iodine, There's many species of them, and each of them is critical from a pure perspective. So when the World Health Organization tells us that there's 2 billion people today that are iodine deficient, we're not. We're actually iodide deficient. And that's just one of the forms of iodine, but they don't get specific. So the interesting thing is that the microbial war that we've been going through is never ending. And, the evolutions that have come within, the healer society, let's call it, are extraordinary. But that initial work that was done with iodine started with one gentleman and extended into 200 years of research, that it is the most researched element on the planet out of all of them on the periodic table. Then you have to ask the question, why? Because it's introduced for different industries that we're in. For example, you can't make a rubber tire without iodine, all right? NASA uses it for certain things in space. So there's extraordinary things that this pure element can do, but we've had a very difficult time harnessing it for what we've wanted. Now, Lugol's figured out that iodine in that crystal form that was discovered wouldn't dissolve in water. It was very difficult to dissolve and control it in water, but what he used was potassium iodide, another form of iodide complex with potassium, allowed molecular iodine to be stable in a solution with that as the, essentially the solvent. That was the very first drug that was produced from the medical community in the 1800s, in the early 1800s, and that was to treat tuberculosis. And Dr. Lugol's figured that molecular iodine, that specific type of iodine, was an incredible, we use the word disinfectant. It'll kill bacteria, it'll deactivate viruses, it'll kill fungus. That's nature's finest disinfectant. And he discovered this, and he felt that it should be in our body and didn't really know a lot. But if you could eat seaweed, this was something he felt comfortable working with, and it worked incredibly well for his patients and the people with tuberculosis. So literally, you're talking about molecular iodine being the first drug. Then, based on that, observations, side effects were happening, that people's goiter was going away. Well, they really didn't tie the two of them together that well, because this is molecular iodine, and then work started. Well, in the medical community, in the healer community of the time, the truth of the day was that goiter was caused from bad drinking water, not from a lack of something coming into our body every day that we needed to ingest. So it had taken 50 years for the medical community from, call it 1830 until 1880, where they said, this element is something we have to have in our body every day. So you can't really feed the whole world seaweed. So what they did was they extracted the iodide from the seaweed, and they said, here's a product that we have. We now need a carrier vehicle because it can't be on its own in order to deliver it to the public at large around the world. We have a problem. This is in 1800, and there's 1 billion people on the planet. We had a problem with iodine deficiency. In 1900, there's 1.6 billion people on the world. We had discovered iodine. We figured out what it could do from call it a disinfectant perspective, but we also figured out it was critical to be in our body. So in 1900, out of the 1.6 billion people, there was still a massive amount of people that were iodide deficient, even though they started to put it on table salt in 1880. So we knew in 1880, iodide was critical, that we needed to ingest it for our body to use it. Why does it take so long to get around the world? Because it had taken 40 years to get to America, another 20 beyond that to get to Canada. Well, countries like Turkey and Iran and a few of these countries around the world only introduced it 20 years ago. You're talking 120 years after the science is known that we need this in our diet. It just takes that long to get something out to the world. And we're hoping that today, because of the electronic age and the ability to communicate a little better, the way we're doing today, is to be able to say, this is something we need in our diet every day. The science is there. So the interesting thing is that when we ingest iodide into our system, I just want to take you for a little walk through this process, because the fact that we're talking about this microbial war that is ongoing, and what we've discovered in the 200 years about iodine, and specifically molecular iodine, is whether or not it's in the air, on a surface, in a solution, or in our body, molecular iodine has one thing that it is essentially meant to do, and that is to kill bacteria and deactivate viruses and kill things that it feels shouldn't be there from a nature's perspective, a natural point of view. This is the natural order. So our immune system, for example, has 4 warriors. And, it's fun to talk about this show because we're talking about flus, but we're really talking about flu. And there's a whole bunch of different types of flu viruses that are out there. And there's a whole bunch of bacteria that can harm us and we could get very sick from as well. So from that perspective, let's just visit for a second on the immune system warrior. Are we good so far, Daryl?
We're really good. Everybody, if you've got questions, you can just send them in if you're on like Twitter, which is X, or Facebook, or YouTube, or Telegram, all right, or Rumble. And just know this, like I told you, our biggest sale we've ever had on is called the Screw the Flu sale. So you might want to check it out. Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, so we're talking about ingesting iodide. And when iodide enters into our stomach, whether or not you get it from a piece of fish out of the ocean, which is the largest repository, on the planet for iodide, and we can get into how we are sort of genetically tied into that ecosphere, let's call it, is really important. But once we ingest iodide, our stomach uses hydrochloric acid to ingest our food. That's what it does. But it also has another purpose. Within our food, when it gets to be broken down to an elemental form, hydrochloric acid is only 0.5% of our stomach acid. There's a bunch of them going on there. But that specific one will take iodide and convert it into molecular iodine. And now you have two forms of iodine that are entering into your bloodstream. One is molecular, and we know what it does from nature's perspective, wherever it is. So that's where it is. We also have iodide that's entering into our stomach, or entering from our stomach into our bloodstream. Now, the interesting thing is I work with a lot of doctors, and I often pose a simple question to them in their terms. At a cellular level, apoptosis happens, which means that at the end of a cell's life, it needs to die. What is the mechanism that terminates that cell? And it's actually molecular iodine, does it? And then you pose the next question to ask the doctor, where's that come from? He has no clue. So this is really the education on how our body functions. So now we have molecular iodine.
So if you don't,
and we have
if I can,
iodide in our
Terry,
bloodstream. Yes.
Terry, if I can say this, if you don't have any iodine in your body or you're very low on it, then you're not going to be getting rid of the cells that shouldn't be there that could go rogue, correct?
100%. This is the natural order. We have to, you often hear the term, we are what we eat. We're focusing today not on our muscle, okay, not on those types of things, but on our immune system, how this works and what protects us and has since we've walked the planet. So this is really critical to us. And we've had all of this work that's been done from a science perspective, but it's never talked about. Very simple. So that's why we're having this fun discussion today. So you now have two different forms of iodine in your blood. You have molecular iodine and you have iodide. Every 18 minutes, your bloodstream passes by your thyroid. Your thyroid has one job, is to remove iodide out of your bloodstream and turn it into atomic iodine, a third form. That atomic iodine is attached to the T3, T4 hormones, the 3 and the 4, atomic iodine. That's what your thyroid is meant to do. Those hormones, the T3 hormone, enters into a cell and it goes into the nucleus. And imagine a cell being like a big swimming pool in your backyard, a round pool, and in the middle is a ping pong ball. That's the nucleus. And the T3 goes in there, and what it does is it controls the function and the life of that cell to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. If that T3 hormone doesn't go in there with atomic iodine, it doesn't happen. And now you have a cell that's like a car without a driver or a plane without a pilot. Not a good thing inside your body. So molecular iodine enters into the cell, and it has two jobs there. One is apoptosis, that it has to terminate the cell at the end of its life. So cells have different lifespans. Some cells last for minutes and hours, some last for days, some last for months and weeks, and some for decades. And in the case of, skin cells, for example, will last 23 to 25 days. And they have to be replenished constantly. Your brain cell, on the other hand, can last 200 years. It'd be really nice if the rest of the cells could catch up, but they do need to be healthy in order to have their longest longevity, obviously. So healthy cells, healthy bodies, we live longer. Very, very simple. And what Daryl's program does around from a holistic perspective is he's trying to take care of the whole body. I'm just trying to focus on a cell, but we both agreed, and that's why we're doing this. It all starts with the cell. whether or not it's a human, we start with one cell and 9 months later, we're 20 trillion cells. Without iodine, it's very difficult to reproduce cells because they have to have the 3 different forms of iodine in each cell. And the third form that we have is iodide. It enters into the cell, and like the ocean, it creates the environment for that nutrition, that development, as well as replication. So if that's not present, it's very difficult for a cell to reproduce. If that can't happen, a human can't produce another baby. Imagine that. That's how important this element is. So back on track a little bit.
How important is
Yes.
it to a pregnant mother and to
Well,
the baby, for the baby when it's born?
let me just touch on that for a minute before we go back to the immune system.
Okay.
We have a built-in iodine thermostat in our body on what it's needed. Very simple. And a good way to demonstrate this is that women, when they're pregnant, their dietary uptake goes up 50% from 150 micrograms up to 220 micrograms minimum every day. That's to ensure that the baby can start to grow. Once the baby is born, it then goes up even higher because now you've got a baby that's 20 trillion cells. It goes from 220 up to 290 for breastfeeding. That's to guarantee that at a fundamental level, from an IQ, brain development, skeletal structure, nervous system, that baby's life, depending on what mom ingests, what she ingests is going to determine how old that child is going to live, how healthy they're going to be, and how many colds and diseases that they're going to be susceptible, and how smart they're going to be. That's how important this element is for mom to have. And yes, it's in some prenatal pills, but not all of them. It's actually in only probably 50%. So even women that go to the doctor to say, I'm pregnant, he goes, here's a pill. The science work that has been done has said it's already a little bit too late at that point. If you are pregnant, and by the time you know you're pregnant, well, and you're lacking certain elements in your body, including iodine being one of the crucial elements to us, then that child is going to already be less than perfect by the time you start. So the idea here from mom's perspective is to make sure that her nutrition is specific, especially during childbearing years, to ensure that the next generation is going to live longer, be healthier, and be smarter than we are. Very simple. And unfortunately, I can tell you in most of the world right now, the last 20 years, we've been going the wrong direction. So back on track with regards to the immune system and our 4 warriors, because this is really important based on what we're talking about here against the microbial world that our bodies fight every day. And they're in battles. Our immune system is in a battle every day. It's ongoing. But when the wars show up, we don't want to make sure we lose the war, because you lose the war, we die. It's very simple. So when we take a look at our immune system being the only thing that's defending us against the microbial world, it's not going to help you against bad food, bad chemistry, and all of the stuff that goes in there that Daryl's having to deal with. I can deal with the microbial world. That's where iodine and I really connect very well. It is a world-class disinfectant from that perspective. We now know that our body produces molecular iodine. Very simple. And one of the interesting features or benefits of molecular iodine is that when it interacts and kills a bacteria or deactivates a virus, it then turns into a pure iodide, which is the micronutrient form. So molecular iodine, when you spray it at the back of your throat or you spray it on a table or in the air, is going to kill things, but it's going to leave them intact. Now, I have something that I can read to you here that just came out from Dr. Steve. He's somebody I work with. He ran the National Institute of Health and the National Library of Medicine for more than 20 years. He's a world famous and renowned doctor. And the interesting thing is that, Steve, do you mind if I just read this for a minute, Daryl?
No, please go right ahead. Take your time.
This is an introduction that's going out into his medical community. All right. And Steve, the easiest way to put this is non-ingestible, topical only iodine preparations rapidly kills and inactivates bacteria, viruses, and spores, including COVID, flu, RSV, SARS, and MERS. We know iodine works. He's talking about topical preparations. Aqueous iodine, now on the other hand, this is molecular iodine, approved as an ingestible micronutrient, is an excellent topical antiseptic and has been demonstrated to be an excellent ingestible antiseptic. Now you got to understand, he has access to 200 years of work that has been done with molecular iodine. Now, Aqueous iodine, that's the form that's in the infinite iodine bottle. It's molecular iodine. When gargled and or sprayed at the back on mucous membranes, it kills bacteria, viruses, and spores, once again, including COVID, flu, RSV, SARS, MERS, and stimulates the immune system to create antibodies against the offending microbe. Selected references. Iodine kills coronavirus in the nose in less than 15 seconds. That came out of the Journal of Medicine, Connecticut, 2020. Recent piece of work. Iodine, cellular immune system. Here's another one. That's published by the National Library of Medicine, the National Institute of Health. The role of iodide and thyroglobulin in modulating the function of immune cells. Not how healthy they are, function. So iodide at the cellular level has an important role in our immune system, as well as molecular iodine being a warrior. Syncytial virus, that's RSV that's been, sort of, I guess, growing consciousness and awareness of it because nobody likes getting sick. They've done the work with RSV. So from that perspective, the current viral issues that we're dealing with out in the market are not something that can't be dealt with inside our body. This is an easy way to put it. So the 4 immune system warriors that we have, we're talking about T cells, natural killer cells, and I'm just assuming that the science boys had a hard time naming it. They call it a natural killer cell, and it's also a T cell. And the third one's called a macrophage, and it looks like a jellyfish. And the fourth one is molecular iodine. Now, we need to ingest foods in order to create these warriors. They're not just there all of a sudden and our body lives for 100 years and we have this powerful immune system. We don't. The T cells only last a few days, for example. So we need to understand what we need to ingest in order to produce these warriors. With regards to molecular iodine, the interesting thing is that we have an RDA of 150 micrograms a day. And I'm just going to step back for a minute because we touched on earlier about being near the ocean, the largest place for iodide in the world. So when you go for a walk on the ocean, and Daryl alluded to this earlier, we have 1,000 tons of iodide that evaporates off the ocean every day. And when you walk on the ocean, you're breathing it. It gets into your lungs, gets into your bloodstream, so your thyroid can use it to produce the T3, T4 hormones that are critical for us as a human. The other thing is when you go for a swim in the ocean, our body will absorb iodide through our skin into our bloodstream, and our thyroid gets to use it and produce what it needs, but our bloodstream also uses it, and it gets into cells where it's needed in order to keep us healthy. The third thing is if you ingest a piece of fish coming out of the ocean. So you're on vacation, you go for a walk on the beach, you go for a swim in the ocean, and you have a piece of codfish, for example, because that's the highest content of iodide in fish, not so much in shark or salmon and things like that, but you have, a 4 or 5 ounce piece of codfish. Now you have enough to sort of suffice your body for the day, and that's it. So when you start adding up that program, if you were just going to eat fish, you'd have to eat at least 15 to, call it 20 pounds of codfish every month just to help your thyroid work. Now, the difference is when you breathe it or when it comes through your skin as iodide, your bloodstream is where it goes to. When you ingest it, your stomach is able to produce molecular iodine in its purest form. And that is extraordinary, and nature happens in our body naturally. Well, that molecular iodine is the same molecular iodine that's inside the infinite iodine bottle. It's 100% natural. Our body produces it. We figured out how to produce it outside the body in a natural form. And like I said earlier, it'll convert over to an iodide once you put it into your mouth. And then when you swallow, now you get the micronutrient and the cyclical value of iodide so that it can turn into molecular iodine again within us, as well as atomic iodine, which is required. All of these at a cellular level. So this is really the elemental trinity at a cellular level. With those in place, everything else that comes into your body is actually going to be processed and used better at a cellular level. And there's been work on the metabolism, for example. So if you're looking to use a few pounds, this will help enormously, and you don't have to even exercise anymore. Your metabolism speeds up. With regards to your immune system, if you don't eat the right foods, you're going to miss warriors in your immune system, and that's not a good thing. Diabetes as a disease, for example, knocks out 2 of your warriors right out of the game immediately, and then you're only left with macrophages and you're left with molecular iodine to protect your whole body. So people that are overweight, it's really important. that you actually lose a few pounds and you become somebody who's healthy, and you don't have to worry about the diabetic issues and your immune system to work properly. So obviously, over the past few years, going what we've gone through, people with diabetes have been at a disadvantage when it comes to your immune system. So when you talk about, our war against the microbial world, it's really important that our warriors are strong. And I've just explained to you what they are. And you can get online and you can actually Google, what do I need to eat in order to produce more T cells or more natural killer cells or more macrophages or more molecular iodine? It's there. The only problem is that when it comes to molecular iodine, the quantity of food you have to eat is extraordinary to get what we need in our body to protect us from the viruses that are coming at us today from that perspective. But oddly enough, when it comes to the other, three warriors, you're going to like this one because you need to eat potatoes and mushrooms are two of the key components in order to produce the other three. And there's a whole bunch of different foods, but when people go, oh, you shouldn't be eating potato chips or French fries. Well, no, not because of the oil, but the potatoes themselves are critical to get into our body. It's one of the nutrients that we have to have for an immune system perspective. And, a short little history on that was, and sort of a big indicator, when the Irish went through, the potato famine, they ate a lot of potatoes, but they were able to thrive and live as a human with potatoes and certain other things within their diet to keep them going. But when the potato famine happened, a lot of them died. Very simple. So there's certain things that are critical in our diet, and there's certain things that we just can't get or we can't have access to, or we're concerned about the quality of the food that's being produced that we're eating today. And the doctors I'm working with, especially the old school ones, are very concerned with that because it's creating new issues in our body that they didn't have to deal with 30 or 40 years ago that we're now dealing with today. So from a science perspective, there's 200 years of work. Daryl has a lot of work that he has access to within his medical library to actually look up and take a look at how important this is, because the work is done. So this is not based upon, let's educate people a little bit further on the ones that already buy iodine today. That's only a very small percentage of people. And the iodine products that they're talking about, like Daryl said, they're high dosing technologies. And I'll review them for just a minute because it's important, because Daryl touched upon them. But when you take a look at, Lugol's was created in order to fight a heavy disease called tuberculosis within our bodies. Wonderful technology at the time. Not meant, and it's still here today. It is so incredible that it's still on the market today, 200 years later. I don't think there's a lot of things that people can say there's something that's been on the market for 200 years. Imagine that, okay? And this is the first drug, and it's still here today, but people are using it right now. You can't use it as a daily product. It's not something you can ingest every day. It's way too powerful, and it's not meant for long-term use. It was a treatment. It was a treatment. It was a drug, okay? When tincture of iodine came along, they couldn't dissolve it in water, so they used alcohol, and it was a topical disinfectant. Molecular iodine would kill everything that alcohol couldn't, and alcohol was in there at 98%, and the medical system said, you need to have the molecular iodine there. Imagine that, even at 2%, and it was incredibly powerful. So it's important that when iodized table salt was introduced as the first dietary supplement, because you can't drink tincture, but you could put it on table salt and you could ingest iodide, and you now know what happens when you ingest iodide. That's how important that is. But as far as getting the information out there, to finish off what we started earlier, we went from 1.6 billion people to 8 billion in the last little over 100 years. And now there's more than 2 billion people are iodine deficient in the world, more than the whole population was 100 years ago. We have more people with a deficiency, which is massive in our physical bodies, but we also have a huge amount of the population is insufficient. And insufficient is a hugely damaging over time. Very simple. So the idea, and this isn't rocket science, this is something you brush your teeth, you spray 5 sprays in your mouth in the morning, and you're good to go for the day. If you happen to be in an environment where you're around people that aren't healthy, or you're feeling a little scratch at the back of your throat, the medical industry's repurposed molecular iodine up to 15 sprays for 7 days. The results have been extraordinary because the additional molecular iodine that's being able to be produced by your body with the spray in your throat has been able to suffice what your thyroid needs. And apparently it had wonderful results helping our immune system. We know why. So,
That's wonderful.
Daryl,
That's wonderful.
where
We've
would you
got-
like to, where would you sort of like to go from here? Easiest way to put it, because when you take a
Well-
look at the technologies, there's only a handful of iodine technologies that have been created in 200 years. You know, you alluded to Lugol's, you alluded to the iodized table salt. We've touched on tincture. In the 1950s, a new technology called plastic was invented. Iodine, molecular iodine, had an affinity for it. It took engineers 2 years to get the molecular iodine back out of the plastic. That product, is betadine. Here's an interesting one that we didn't touch on, because there was a product created in the 1950s for people with no thyroid or only a partial thyroid. If there's no thyroid, you're going to die very quickly. A partial thyroid, you're just going to die over a longer period of time. But you're going to go through a lot of problems. And the science boys got together. They did a lot of work in the 50s, and they created a synthetic product called Synthroid. Wonderful for a very small percentage of the population, kept them with us. And there's nothing, worse than losing people that we don't need to. And this was where technology really helped. The problem that evolves with technology, like any technology, is Synthroid is now the #1 drug being sold in North America, South America, and a few other places around the world. Why? We all have thyroids. That percentage hasn't changed, okay? We have certain people with certain, partial thyroid function, but that percentage hasn't changed. What's happened is people are going to see a doctor saying, I'm feeling a little lethargic, I'm gaining a little bit of weight, I'm getting sick a little bit more often, and he's going, here's a pill, rather than actually explaining to them, change your diet. And if you can't eat a whole bunch of fish or seaweed, which most of us can't, take a simple supplement. And the only one that's on the market today, and we formulated this for humans every day. The other technologies have all been game changers for humans. Every time an iodine technology has entered the market, from a global perspective, it's a game changer, and we've just gone through them. And even betadine in the 1950s, when they created it, changed hospital environments so they could wash floors with it. Then they figured out they could wash their hands with it. Then they figured out they could scrub a patient with it in order to make sure that disease would be reduced. Very simple in their environment. And that was a huge change for that environment. So there's been nothing created in 70 years until now. And the technology that's created now is literally 21st century technology that is pure iodine, and we figured out how to put it into water. That's what's in infinite iodine. It is the purest form in the world. You can microdose it. Every spray is only going to deliver you 30 micrograms. 5 sprays delivers you what you need. And like anything, you own it. You can use it the way you'd like. Doctors have repurposed it with patients. And as Daryl says, people have either breathed it, or they spray it on their face, or they spray it in their ears, or they use it for acne. But most importantly, get it in your mouth every day for your 5 sprays, and a few more if you think it's required. Very, very simple. So I think we've sort of touched on it. And if you have any questions about how molecular iodine is one of the warriors that helps protect us, like I said, there's 200 years of science that you can actually tap into, and it's very easy to do. Just Google it.
Let me ask you a
From Daryl's
question.
perspective,
Somebody's
he goes
asking,
much further beyond that, but this, I think, can at least give you a little bit of a background on our immune system. And the warriors haven't changed since the day we've been here. We've just figured out the 4th warrior that needs help and how to produce a product to get us there.
so somebody's asking, will the infinite iodine actually dismantle the COVID virus or the new X virus or any other virus? I don't know how you want to answer that.
Well, here's a simple way to answer it. The most difficult on the virus to deactivate on the planet is polio 1. Okay? I did the work with polio 1 is the benchmark. If you can't, you've got to kill polio 1, and anything below it, you can kill it without an issue. All right? A lot of companies start with lesser, easier viruses to deactivate and try and work their way up to polio 1 to see if they can do it. I started with polio 1 and molecular iodine when I first started to work in a laboratory in Nova Scotia, where you and I first met, Daryl. Okay, way back when. So
Yeah, way
when
back
you were running your doc detox out of Halifax, that's when I was actually starting to do my medical work with the doctors. And we killed polio 1 so that you know, in seconds with 10 ppm of iodine. 10 ppm. Okay. Today, with normal technologies, to kill polio 1 takes an hour with normal technologies that they use to kill it. Now, that's at 10 ppm. The interesting thing about ingestible molecular iodine, 30 micrograms in a spray. You need 150 micrograms of molecular iodine to be ingested into your body for your daily uptake of iodide. All right? 30 microgram sprays 150 ppm of kill power. I hope that explains it to you. So when they were talking about the work done in Connecticut where molecular iodine will kill COVID in less than 15 seconds, the work they were doing there, they used betadine, povidone iodine. And the amount of molecular iodine that's released out of the plastic matrix in the chemical reaction is maybe 3 to 5 ppm of kill power. And it'll do it in less than 15 seconds. And it's not a natural product. You have to have the molecular iodine be released. There's benefits to having that slow time release, which was used in many different applications. But when it comes to kill power and instant, like I said, polio 1 we've taken on with 10 ppm. And at 150 ppm, we have no issue with anything. One thing, and that's based on the viruses that are out there today. There's new ones coming every day, and we continue to do the work with viruses, okay? There's some viruses that have been manipulated. We continue to look at the work with that. And at this point, I can give you some peace of mind. Molecular iodine has been able to kill anything that comes at us on the planet. If it couldn't, one of our immune systems wouldn't be there, our warriors, and that would have a huge impact on our lifespan.
So I hope everybody gets what Terry just said, is that which the majority of the population has been so fearful of and made some decisions that maybe they wish they didn't. Did you hear what he just said? That infinite iodine will neutralize and dismantle any virus that's ever come at us. And even the ones that they've played with. Terry?
So that's molecular iodine. It is an incredible element, and it comes from nature. And the interesting thing is the planet uses it just the way our body does. So the planet will take iodide, and this is just a fun fact, okay? Because the future is making sure the air that we breathe is safe as well, not only just our bodies and our immune systems, but the interesting thing is that we've been looking at the ocean for 200 years, and we watch lightning hit the ocean every day. So once again, picture yourself, you're on vacation. You're walking on the beach during the day, getting a suntan, you're breathing iodide-enriched air, you're going for a swim, it's getting absorbed into your body, you're eating fish at night, and you're getting it ingested. Out on the ocean, a thunder and lightning storm, you get to watch it at night. And it starts to move towards your vacation resort where you're at. And if you're there and you're out, you can actually feel the warm rush of air, and you can smell something different other than just salt in the air. What happens is when lightning strikes the ocean, it generates ozone, free molecules of iodine in the electrical process. Well, ozone, interestingly enough, like hydrochloric acid in our stomach, has the ability to take iodide and turn it into molecular iodine, nature's finest killer. So when people ask the question, which is rare, but I pose it, how do you think the air, is disinfected that we've been breathing for the last millennia? How many tens of thousands of years as humans have been here? And then you go all the way back to the dinosaurs. Literally, how do they breathe? And how was the air disinfected? We know that the soil and the plants are going to remove toxins, and they remove this and that. And the earth and the soil do a wonderful job, but the earth and the soil don't kill bacteria. In fact, they live there, and they sure can't deactivate a virus. So the planet uses molecular iodine to disinfect the air that we breathe every day. And when you think of it, lightning strikes on the ocean happen 500,000 times a day, every day in, day out. The planet uses it the same way a human body does. It's part of nature. We're part of nature. It's part of nature, except we're on a much smaller scale, but we generate our own molecular iodine. But we need to have the source to make that happen. So simple spray at the back of your throat, reduce the viral bacterial loading, been well demonstrated that'll help our bodies. and at the same time converts to iodide and leaves materials there for your immune system to recognize. Now, this is science, very difficult to market because you know what regulatory says, it's a dietary supplement. So based on being a dietary supplement where it's called thyroid and immune support, we're just talking about the science for the thyroid and the immune support and how it works. Very simple.
Excellent. I've got a question from Jenny here. She says, our father is elderly and he's had pneumonia twice in the last year, and we're scared if he goes to the hospital, he'll go on a ventilator. What can we do? If I can, I'll answer this, and then Terry, maybe if you have something you want to say. If you take just a little bit of infinite iodine, okay, all right, it comes in a 1 ounce, but it also comes in a 4 ounce bottle. But if you take just a little bit of that, and at the beginning, you would take like 3 parts distilled water. It's better if it's structured. It's got 1,000% better hydration into the cells. But if you only got distilled, I get it. But take a look at our structured water unit on our shop. Now, so you take 1 part iodine, 3 parts distilled water, and you can mix it. Now, this is just at the beginning. And you want to get yourself a nebulizer. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, everybody should own a nebulizer. Even your baby. If your baby, okay, if you're worried about colds and flus and keeping congestion and viruses down, and this is the best way to do it ever. Okay, just know that your father would never be in danger if he actually, you can get like a home nebulizer that you plug in, that's a heavy duty one. If he's watching TV, if he's sleeping, understand something. I said this earlier and I meant it. We have people that have the worst COPD, asthma, lung conditions, even all the way to stage 4 inflammation in their lungs. And they say to me, well, how often should I do it? And I said, you know what? You want to nebulize as much as you possibly can. And eventually you'll put the iodine straight into your nebulizer and do it straight. Look at, if I'm watching something or just doing something, or if I'm even like just laying back and doing like an Avicen and I've got my eyes closed, I have a home nebulizer and I put iodine straight into it, the infinite iodine, and I'll just nebulize and I'll just breathe that in. Do you know what that does to your lungs, your brain, your blood, your tissues, your sinuses? For one thing, I'm telling you right now, it's always about this. So just so you know, you've got to have infection to create inflammation, to create mucus, okay, to try to protect the lining of the lungs or any other lining in the body. And that mucus, if it's in the lungs, will actually drown the alveoli that pick up the oxygen. And that's why the coughing. And then eventually you'll get a scar tissue issue in your lungs, because inflammation causes scar tissue formation when you have lack of circulation. And then eventually calcification if you're heading towards stage 1, 2, 3, or 4 inflammation, which they call cancer. So understand something. If you want to do the best preventative in the world, you're going to get yourself a portable nebulizer that you could use in the car. And then you're going to have a home one that you use. But I have seen people with the worst lungs in the world. So the reality is that you can either nebulize at home, or if somebody has really bad situation, pneumonia before, or a bad immune system, or they're older, you don't want them to ever go on a ventilator, then do your own ventilation with nebulizing. Terry?
I always have to stick to the science, because what you're talking about is repurposing a product, which people can do. Like I said, once you own it, you can do what you like with it. But once again, another fun little sort of analogy to that. Whole bunch of seniors on a cruise boat. Okay, you're going out for a cruise in the Caribbean, and you're going through a storm, and the boat's banging around for sure. But the fact is, there's molecular iodine in the air that you're breathing. It's incredibly healthy for you from a lung perspective, because molecular iodine is safe to breathe. If it wasn't, nobody'd be allowed on the ocean during a thunder and lightning storm. So our bodies are meant to take in iodine in a molecular form. It's meant to take in iodide in order to use it, in order to generate molecular iodine or atomic iodine. But when you're talking about seniors, okay, we all need this on a day-to-day just to stay healthy. But when unfortunately, as we age, It's very simple. And if we're more susceptible to things as we get older, it's really important to keep our immune system strong on a day-to-day basis. That's critical, critical to fight it. And for respiratory type diseases, I'm working with respiratory doctors, and that's when you take a look at repurposing something, because if it happens naturally on the ocean and we can breathe it, we've made nebulizer technology to be able to take iodine in a liquid form and nebulize it for us to breathe. So that's up to people when they get the product, what they would like to do with it. So from that perspective, the work has been done. In 1948, they actually put iodine on the snouts of mice and found that they didn't get the viruses that they were trying to give them. So this isn't something new. The work is not new. This goes back decades, and in some instances, centuries. So it's a natural product. But as we age, we sure need it, because from a metabolic perspective, it's required for our metabolism to function. And oddly enough, things lately seem to be coming in threes, because we've got 3 different forms of iodine that our body works with. We also have in our endocrine system, there's 3 different components. You have the thyroid that has to produce the hormones for us, but you also have your immune system and your metabolism, part of a system within our bodies that are critical to us as we age, to make sure that we maintain ourselves so that we can live as old as we possibly can, but do it healthy. Because the last thing anybody wants to do is be 100 years old and in a lot of pain and forgetting who you are every day. So the whole idea here is, as we age, we all want to be able to live longer, and kids that are 20 really don't realize that. But we do need to start with the children to get them on this element sooner rather than later. And mom's going to help enormously there from an educational perspective. But once you get onto the routine and you understand this is the way that we need to live for the next 100 years. And like I said, there's Lugos we've been using for 200 years. Molecular iodine, now that we've discovered its benefits and how to control it and put it in a bottle so we can use it for the first time, is extraordinary for the next 100 years to come. But we'd like to do a better job than the World Health Organization has done with iodized salt. So with media today and social media and interaction, it should be a whole lot better for us to communicate amongst ourselves on things that are important for us and things that we just need to ingest every day. This isn't saying, hey, you have to go out and build a new airplane, or a new car, or do something extraordinary. You just need to spray something 5 times at the back of your throat, and your body's going to thank you enormously as we age. And we age from day one. That's what aging is all about. From the day you're born, you're not getting any younger. So look at it from that perspective, and start helping the people around us, and spread this news. Because if you don't do it, we all suffer. So Daryl's doing a tremendous job, and I thank him very much for this platform, to be able to discuss the science of what's out there, so that you can actually go and look at it and understand how critical this is. And then you can understand the importance of a simple product that Daryl has, an infinite iodine to spray, to say, let's spray this 5 times at the back of our throat every day. Very, very simple. As far as the other things that molecular iodine can do, take a look at the research. It's there, and it's extraordinary. The mode of action on how molecular iodine, you were talking about deactivating a virus. That work has been done for a long time. Or how it kills a bacteria. That work was done a long time ago. The recent work coming out is extraordinary, and it goes back. It's not new, but within the past few decades, we figured out the mode of action on how molecular iodine kills cancer cells. Very simple. We know how, for example, T cells, natural killer cells, and macrophages kill a cancer cell. They envelop it and they kill it. Well, iodine is not as big as those 3, but it is more powerful. And it actually is small enough to enter into the cancer cell and kill it from the inside. It's apoptosis, the same way it kills a normal cell at the end of its self-life. If molecular iodine is present, its job is to go after rogue cells, and they've proven the mode of action with a cancer cell, and not just one, many different strains of cancer cells. And they focused a lot of work on fibroids, fibroid cysts, and women's breast cancer. Read the work, it's extraordinary. But that's repurposing and working with molecular iodine at a different level, I guess is the best way to put it, in order to get the type of results that they've seen in the research.
Absolutely. So, right off the bat, we've had somebody asking a question: is iodine a seafood? I'm just,
Good one. No, but iodine is an element that's in the ocean. So everything in the ocean, all life in the ocean has trace amounts of iodide in it, whether or not it's fish or plant life or animals, sea animals, all of them have a certain content of iodide or they wouldn't be there. Same thing with a human. We're the same way.
is nebulizing every day better than spraying it in your throat, or does it matter either way? I'm not sick, just asking. Well, I would spray it in your
That's a really,
throat.
really good question. That one is a great question. And I've just explained the difference. When you actually breathe molecular iodine in, it does what it does naturally inside our lungs. It'll convert over to an iodide and get absorbed into our bloodstream so our thyroid can use it and our cells also use it. You need to ingest iodide in order for our stomach to produce molecular iodine, the different species. So you're better off spraying it at the back of your throat on a day-to-day basis versus trying to have it absorbed through your lungs, because that way you're only going to get it for your thyroid versus the molecular iodine aspect, which is needed in our system as well.
But it's better to do both.
Yes, it is. Without a doubt, it'll keep your lungs.
There's your answer, everyone. And I'm telling you right now, does anybody know what the elderly are passing away from more than anything else? Lung conditions. And it's not because of viruses, it's because of such a high inflammatory actual diet that the whole world's eating right now. I mean, they stated that, children that are of the age of 12 won't live as long as their parents, because we are eating such toxic, drinking such toxic things now. And it's really, you know what? You become toxic from the bottom up. People are drowning, okay, from their own mucus in their lungs. And you know what? You try to hack it up, right? I'm telling you right now, anybody that has a lung problem, you want to do nebulizing, but you also want to do clapping on your lungs, okay? And first and foremost, and tomorrow, I'm going to be coming on here tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to show how to work on your knee if you've got a knee problem, but I'm also going to show how to actually get your lungs working properly. I'm going to go through everything about that. I'm going to do a 2-in-1. Show you how to fix your knees if you've got knee problems, how to do it yourself by using a clapper and some other techniques called one-shot therapy. And I'll show you how to work the nebulizer and what to do to actually work the lung area to prepare it. How's that? Let me see here. Will a 16-ounce bottle stay fresh for months? Yes, it will. Just put the lid back on, correct?
Yep. And one thing I'd recommend, depending on where you're living, if you're trying to get the most lifespan out of your bigger bottle, refill bottles of iodine, once you've opened them, when you recap it, put it in the door of your fridge.
Yeah.
Very simple. So to give you an idea, molecular iodine doesn't like to be in water. It would rather go into the air. So when you've got the air gap in the bottle, as the air gap grows, you've got iodine that's going to want to leave the solution to go in the air. Below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, that process stops. It'll stay in the water. It'll stay in the solution as molecular iodine versus evaporating into the air within the bottle. So keep it in your fridge door.
If you keep it in your fridge, okay, and it would probably last even longer than that 3-year lifespan if you actually did that, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, and things to be aware of. You don't want to put it at the back of the fridge where the super cold air comes in. It'll freeze it. You don't want that to happen. We just want to keep it cool. So keep it on your fridge door or keep it in a cool cabinet in the house. But you don't want it to sit in the sunshine or get hot.
Yeah. And
because iodine, I'll give you a little science behind that. Okay. The colder it is, the iodine is one of the highest energetic molecules on the periodic table. All right. And if you cool it down and you take it down to call it 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the molecules are going to move very, very slow. It's going to take them longer to do what they need to do. Okay. And this is an important one. our bodies run up at around 93 degrees. Okay. As the temperature starts to go up, the molecules start to move faster. The kill power happens quicker. The strength is incredible. By the time you hit body temperature, iodine is at its maximum kill capabilities by comparison to 40 degrees. So, interestingly enough, when you take a look at the human body, it operates at the perfect temperature for this element to do what it needs to do.
And so the next question is, yes, we have the 16 ounce and the 1 ounce iodine on sale, and it's for a week. That's correct. Next thing, is it possible to spray on raw dog food and be effective?
You want to do it a better way. If you want your dog to get iodine into its diet, okay, here's just a better way to do it would be not to buy infinite iodine, but to buy infinite iodide. Okay, if you try and put molecular iodine into a bowl of water, it's going to be gone within minutes. It goes into the air very quickly because, as I just explained, it'd rather be in air than in water. Iodide, on the other hand, you can put it into boiling water and boil the whole thing down to the last cup that's in your on the stove, and that still has iodide in it. So iodide would be the best thing to put in for the dog into its bowl of drinking water. If your dog has got topical cuts and things along those lines, you definitely may want to put some onto a 100% cotton gauze, and then you can actually treat the area for the dog that has little scratches or cuts. Or if the dog doesn't mind it, you can spray it directly.
Beautiful. Is it beneficial to use both iodine and iodide?
Simple answer. People have asked me what I take every day. I take molecular iodine every day. That's what I take. For people that don't want to change the microflora at the back of their throat, they can use iodide. That is the only difference between the two of them. Okay, when you spray iodide at the back of your throat, it doesn't kill anything, but it is going down into your stomach so that you can ingest it, and then it will do what it needs to do to produce molecular iodine in your system as well as atomic iodine.
Beautiful. Would iodine help kids with eczema? Well, absolutely, because it's a fungus infection. I'll let Terry answer it, and then I'll tell you the routine that we use. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, that one's not, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. Every single cell and organ in our body needs the elemental trinity of the three that we discussed earlier. Every single one of them. So if there's a disruption on your skin, regardless of what it is, we know that there's an issue with the elemental trinity. Now, there's also been science work done when iodine, molecular iodine, or iodide is applied to the skin topically. What happens? Okay, so the interesting thing, we talked about cellular reproduction and human reproduction earlier. We touched on that, okay, and how important the elemental trinity of these three forms are at a cellular level. Well, from a skin's perspective, if it's going to be reproducing new cells, it has to have the fundamental materials to make that happen. So you need to both ingest iodide or spray molecular iodine, and then it'll convert. You need to do that from the inside, but from the outside, you can spray molecular iodine topically as well. And the work that's been done there is it activates what are called the NFR2 pathways in a cell to create a brand new cell. And that's the scientific term that we touched upon earlier about reproduction. That is the term, is it activates the NFR2 pathways within a cell to say, time to make a new one. That's how important iodine or iodide is topically on our skin. So does it help with abrasions and things along those lines? You bet. Can it help with eczema and other skin issues? Can't harm. This is 100% natural product. It only has benefits at a cellular level for our skin.
Beautiful. I have a horse that had COPD that has improved massively, but she does have intermittent breathing problems. How much would you give a horse
That one's way out of my realm to get into the animal world for animals breathing. Okay. But I can tell you, okay, I've worked with different animals. All right. And I can tell you some work that I did with poultry. The work that we did with chickens was rather interesting because in a poultry house, we put it in their drinking water in order to get rid of antibiotics and grow bigger, healthier chickens. But it also ended up going into their cooling system so that they were breathing it every day. So they had a combination of both breathing it as well as ingesting it. And interestingly enough, there are certain viruses that affect chickens that don't humans. And when they get into chicken farms, it's not a good thing because they end up killing millions of chickens when it shows up. All right. When iodine's in the air, it was interesting that none of those issues happened to hit any of the chicken houses that had iodine running in the air with them. All right, from that perspective. So from a bigger animal's perspective, they've used iodine to treat hoof disease for horses for quite some time. And then they had to change because it was very difficult to buy crystal iodine that they were packing in the hooves. With regards to a horse that's that big, that's breathing iodine, that's something that we'd really have to look into. I couldn't really answer right off the top, but any amount of molecular iodine going into the horse's lungs is going to help enormously because it's obviously going to go after things that shouldn't be there and invaders in the lungs. So, and to try and nebulize it for a horse would be a whole other sort of issue on its own, but can it be done? I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can. And if you use the same rate that you're doing with humans to start, you'll be able to watch the progression with the horse. It's, you're trying to get the lungs healthy in an animal. Try it.
Okay.
That's something that you can try repurposing it and let us know how you do. So I don't think it's a really big industry for us to focus on or have to do a whole bunch of science work on. But from a personal perspective, you don't want to lose the animal. You don't want it to be sick. You want it to be healthy. Well, animals need it just like humans do. Very simple. So from that perspective, try it and let Daryl know how you do. But try it at human levels and figure out how you can actually nebulize it into a bigger bag that the horse breathes from. And that won't be too difficult to do. So you could easily jury rig something off a little nebulizer like Daryl's, except just with a bigger bag so that the horse is going to breathe it. And you'll be able to follow, the progression of the horse's, health over
You'll
time.
know.
You'll know.
It's definitely going to work. The lungs of a horse, the lungs of a human. And I already told you, we've went from COPD all the way to stage 4 inflammation, which they call cancer, with utilizing this and only seeing amazing results.
So yeah, have them get back to us. That's the important thing, Daryl. If they do this, have them get back to us and at least let us know how they've done.
Absolutely. How does iodine and iodide affect or impact if one has parasites?
Parasites, that's an interesting question. Okay, it depends on what parasites you're talking about, because to give you an example, people have recently been using the term cancer is a parasite. Okay, so the term parasite traditionally has been used in the medical industry as an invader that comes into our body that will not live in harmony with us, but can kill us. That is the term parasite. Okay. Historically, when they talked about parasites, they'd be talking about things like Giardia and Cryptosporidium. And Daryl, you know what those are, okay?
Yes.
So when you talk about a Giardia parasite or a Cryptosporidium parasite, so that you understand, it is a small bug, and it's a bug that is alive that starts to coat itself with a mucus, as Daryl puts it, with a mucus. The only difference is as it coats itself with that mucus, it makes it hard like a bowling ball. All right. So, and then it has many, many layers of that mucus that's hard like a bowling ball. And that's how it protects itself. And it grows in that form in nature or somewhere else. And as soon as we ingest it into our bodies, that little mechanism, that bug inside says, okay, time to crack the shell. And as soon as it cracks the shell, that little bug is now ready to reproduce and make more parasites that are going to coat themselves that make it difficult for anything to kill them. So you don't want parasites. And I can tell you that there's been work done with molecular iodine on parasites. And will it kill it faster than other things in the market? Yes, it can. But that's something that you've really got to look hard at, because there's certain medications for different types of parasites. And like I say, that's, like I said, in order to crack that hard shell on Cryptosporidium or Giardia, that takes hours, not seconds. It's a difficult thing to get through from a disinfection perspective. Once that thing is cracked, that little bug that's inside, you can kill it in an instant. But to try and get through that coating that's on it is not an easy thing to do. And that's the easiest way to explain it, I guess, from a visual perspective. But that's what I can tell you about parasites. So depending on what type of parasite it is, look hard, because the definition of parasite is being used differently today. And I've only been learning about this recently when people are trying to call cancer a parasite. Well, it's a rogue cell that starts to do something versus something that's being introduced from outside of our body coming in.
Okay, so just so you know, everyone, most parasites are not ingested. They're created within a body. Okay, bodies that decompose create parasites. Just like if you had a bowl of fruit and the fruit starts to get overripe, what happened? Did the fruit flies fly from thousands of miles away? How did they get into the house? How did they get around the bowl? Because guess what? The fruit flies were actually created from the invisible when the fruit actually starts to decompose. If everybody would like to go to pdgfree.com, I will give you my perfect day guide, which is a 550-page manual. It is the most powerful take action manual if you want to take your own health back. In there, I show you everything you can do with infinite iodine and iodide. It's all in there. And I also read I wrote a chapter in there called The Parasite Party that will get rid of the whole I need to cleanse parasites. People don't know this, but I know people that will cleanse parasites every 3 months and they'll do it for the rest of their life. What you need to do is change the integrity of the tissue, and everything is a frequency. Does anybody know why the infinite iodine works like it does? It's because of the frequency that it has. It's able to unlock the dis-ease within the body. And the reality is everything is frequency. If you change the issues in your tissues and brought up the integrity of your tissues, you wouldn't have parasites. I don't care. I could eat parasites and parasite eggs. They're not gonna form in me. I nebulize infinite iodine. I take infinite iodine. My diet and the vibration of my personality isn't depressive enough, and I am at ease. I'm not a disease, so I'm not going to breed them. We need to understand about frequency. Everything's frequency, whether it's your personality, it's what you drink, think, and eat. Download my PDG, Perfect Day Guide, pdgfree.com guide. Go read The Parasite Party and go check out everything that you can do with the infinite iodine. And this is the first time I offered this guide for free in my life. The 550-page manual. It's absolutely gorgeous. An 8-year-old could understand it, and I guarantee you're going to know more than 90% of all the natural health practitioners out there after you've gone through this manual. Okay? Yes, I already repeated it, everybody. The sale's on for 1 week, and it started today, which is Tuesday, runs until next week. And yes, and we've done it that if you purchase this much, you pay this much. The more you purchase, the better the sale. That's it. You can see it if you want to look it up. What about for dogs benefits? How much needed? We already answered that. But for the dog, it would be the same thing. If it's 5 sprays for 150 pounds, if the dog was 1/3 the size, Terry?
Yep. Oddly enough, yeah, dogs are very similar to humans.
That's right.
Very
So
simple.
you would
And
do 2 to 3
and here's the
sprays
thing,
for a
I've seen
dog
funny
of 50
videos from
pounds.
customers where, mom is spraying her 5 sprays in the morning and the dog comes running over, opens up his mouth, and she sprays 5 sprays into the dog's mouth. So it just depends on how your animal wants to take it. You can either drink it in its water, or if you'd like, you can spray it in its mouth.
Okay. But for drinking it in the water, it would be the iodide, right?
Iodide.
In the
Yep,
mouth,
correct.
you could do the
Iodide has to go in the water.
iodine. In the mouth, you could do the iodine. But if you're going to put it in the water, it's going to be the iodide, everybody. And you're going to see big changes with your dog. Trust me. Everybody, all my nutraceuticals that are behind me, there's nothing that a dog can't do. and understand something. And this is not Terry, this is just Dr. Wolf in his mind. But understand, veterinarians are the same as medical doctors. They're into drugs, they're not into nutrition. Okay? So the reality is, it's 1 out of 100 veterinarians that will even understand anything about true health when it comes to your pets. So think about
So
it.
one thing I wanted to add to that, Daryl, okay, is your animal, for example, let's talk about dogs for a minute. And you put iodide into its drinking water, or you spray it into the dog's mouth. You're going to find that over the next 30 days that the dog's going to have more energy. The dog's coat is going to be silkier to touch and to see. And that's just an outward thing of having this element in a dog's diet. They actually, like I said, the energy level will go up, but you'll notice it definitely in the dog's coat for sure.
Thank you. How long does a big bottle last? Well, if you bought like a 16-ounce bottle, which that's our biggest bottle, but if you bought a 16-ounce bottle, that'll last somebody a year with taking it what they need and also nebulizing it. That's about right, isn't it, Terry?
In that ballpark, yeah, it depends on how often you use it and what you use it for. But yes, you need it every day for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. That you
Yeah,
have to
but
have.
you know,
So
a lot of people buy.
if you go through 30 mils in a month, sake of argument, because you're using a mill a day,
Yeah,
just for your 5 sprays, then you're looking at 365 mils out of the bottle is what you're going to be using on a daily basis just for your back of your throat. And then anything else on top of that for topical use or anything else you'd like to use it for, you have it.
and also just know this when it comes to cancer patients, because we've already talked about what the infinite iodine actually does for them in helping their cells. Some of those people are taking 2 ounces per day, aren't they, Terry?
Yeah, they're actually drinking 1.5 ounces right now on a daily basis, and they have in a lot of the clinical work based on fibroids, fibroid cysts, as well as women's breast cancer and different strains of cancer. That seems to be, it sounds odd, but it seems to be the magic number at 6 milligrams in order to fight off certain big diseases in our body that they've done a lot of work with. But when I say it's odd, I put 6 milligrams per liter into the drinking water for chickens to see extraordinary results with animals. It didn't happen. The same results weren't at 2 milligrams a liter or 12 milligrams a liter. 6 milligrams a liter was this magic number. And I found it interesting. I was doing that work and found it out with animals, and the human work is done at the exact same number.
Yeah, so for a person who's dealing with that type of disease, they'd be doing 1.5 ounces a day. So that's why we have the larger bottles.
Yep.
Let me see here. Can I nebulize her? Of course you can. And she will let us know. Definitely nebulize the horse and let us know. But please, Julie, call me at 469-861-8884. And just know this, I had horses and I did similar things like this. So if you need my help, please call me. Or if anybody else wants to call me, that's a USA phone number. It's direct. You're not going to, if you have USA calling or if you have Canada calling into the US, if you call 469-861-8884, that's direct to me, even though I'm in Mexico here at the Ixtapa World Healing and Training Center retreat. Okay, so feel free to call me. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to talk to you, to answer your questions. This is what I do. This is what I love. Okay. I'm using most of your products for about 5 years. What do you recommend for COPD? I'll tell you what I'll do tomorrow, because I said I was going to talk about lungs. Tomorrow I will give the whole routine of COPD, and there's a lot of lung problems happening this time of year. And I'm going to go through and show you a whole routine on the lungs and how to work and reverse problems with your knees. I'm going to do that tomorrow at 11 Eastern Standard Time, and tomorrow is Wednesday, just so everybody knows when they see this show. Okay? And I will be on live on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Doc of Detox on Telegram, and also I'll be on Twitter, which is now called X. And then I'm also on Instagram on my phones and TikTok. Eventually, maybe they'll be on, and then people can bring in questions from there as well. Okay. All right. Let me see here. What about liver cirrhosis, Terry?
Hmm. The interesting thing is we've actually had customers that have gotten back to us that have had, your liver regenerates. I'd have to go back and look at this, but it's every couple of years, and you can help me with this, Daryl. The cells regenerate every couple of years for your liver to regenerate. Okay, as far
Yeah.
as their lifespan goes.
Well, you can have
And we've had people
40%.
that have just done 5 sprays a day, and it's helped their livers regenerate over a 2 to 3 year period. That the medical industry was shocked. Said, "What have you been doing?" Says, "This is all I've been taking every day. That's the only change." So changed his life enormously. He was overweight. He was a big man. He did lose some weight, but he didn't change anything other than the molecular iodine on a daily basis. That was the only difference. And it's anecdotal, but for him, it was life changing because all of a sudden he was able to eat different foods and enjoy life a little more versus what he was like years before.
And if I can, I'll explain why. Does everybody understand that a fatty liver is tons of inflammation? Does anybody understand from tons of inflammation from a fatty liver that you'll actually go to what we call cirrhosis, which is scar tissue? And remember what I told you? Everything is frequency and everything is circulation. You can take a liver with cirrhosis. They won't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you that we know how to reverse that and have a beautiful, healthy liver. And I'm telling you the truth, everyone. Whether you've got scar tissue in your liver, whether you've got it in your joints, whether you've got it in your muscles, whether you got it in your tendons, whether you got it in your ligaments, whether you got it in your organs, you can get rid of it. Inflammation. Okay, so infection causes inflammation. Inflammation, okay, will cause fat to grow first because the fat stores the inflammation and the infection so that we don't have mutation. So if we continue to have inflammation, then what happens is it creates fibrin. The fibrin creates the scar tissue, and that's what you call liver cirrhosis, and it can be reversed. But if you want to go through a medical doctor, you do it. But if you want to reverse something and you want it back the way it used to be, then why don't you put back what it's missing, which is proper circulation and a different frequency? And understand something, the frequency that iodine has, it's not how much you take, it's the frequency that actually unlocks the story. That's it. It's always been about frequency, everybody. Everything has a different frequency, and different things have different frequencies that work on different levels of the human body. That's why different foods do different things, different essential oils, okay, and different nutritionals do different things because they have the key to unlock different things. Everything is about frequency. Okay, good. Mary's going to call me about her horse. Would that help?
Daryl, I'm just to let you know, Daryl, I'm running a little short on time. I've got
Well,
another
then
meeting I'm
guess
going to
what?
jump into shortly.
We're done now. We're done. So what would you like to say to everybody?
Something I can leave you with would be you take care of your, Daryl is helping you take care of your body from a holistic perspective, critical in order for us to live longer and stay healthy. I tend to focus on one specific area where my knowledge is dealing with an element, which has sort of captured me for 35 years that I've been working with. But the fact is, tell people what you've learned. And it's a simple product to buy. Like I say, it doesn't take a big effort in order to make it a simple change. And this isn't something that's offensive. It's easy to take it. And now that you understand how important it is for your immune system, your body, your thyroid, everything that's going on in order to help us live healthier and longer and protect us, the logic is there. So I know that people often don't buy based on logic. They buy based on emotion, and whether or not that's joy or fear. There's a real happiness and joy to living healthier, and there's a real fear not to, especially what we've seen over the past couple of years. So, Daryl's on the right track. Eat properly. Take care of yourself. He can help you enormously. When it comes to what I deal with, Infinite Iodine is 21st century iodine technology that is the best in the world. And it is a game changer for the human race. And we're getting to start with it now. It'll be nice to see it around the world over the next decade and the millions of people that'll be taking it every day, or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people. But we need to get there, and we need your help to do it. Very simple. And this is something that you can get behind. The science is there. You take it yourself. It's a simple product. If, you know, it's one of the 25 crucial elements. And, you know, just to give you a simple example, air is another element. If we don't get any air, we die really quickly. Well, if we don't have enough iodine, it's just going to take us a little while longer to die. And all of us would prefer to stay healthier. And most importantly for all of us, especially at my age, looking forward, forward with my son and now my grandchildren, you want them to be healthier and live longer than we do. Always, 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 always. And that should be our goal. And from a health perspective, that's what we need to do. And I'll leave you with that. Order the iodine now. Daryl doesn't have a really big supply. I'm bottling more from as we speak in order to get it into his, into his fulfillment. But order it now. This is something that we need to start today. Your health is not something that you say, yeah, maybe we'll start in a few years. Start today. There's no reason not to.
Thank you,
That's the best I
Terry.
can leave you with.
And just know this,
right.
everybody. Terry's going to be back on Thursday. Okay, Terry will be back on Thursday, same time, same place. And what was that Eastern again? Well, what time did we have you come on, Terry?
It was about 2:00.
Yep. So it'll be 1 o'clock my time, which I'm Central, and I'm in Ixtapas-Zihuatanejo. Terry is in Eastern time, so it was at 2 o'clock, right?
Yep.
So we'll see everybody at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Terry, and we're going to be talking about metabolism and being able to gain weight or being able to lose weight and why iodine actually matters. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Darryl. Have a good evening.
I will. Thank you, my friend. Hey, everybody.
Alrighty.
I want to thank you for joining me. And as you can tell, and I say this, and I mean it, okay, we have the only non-toxic iodine product in the world. You cannot hurt yourself. You can do too much Lugol's or too much nascent iodine, and you're going to get yourself into big trouble. But it's not that. It's how the infinite iodine works on the body. Now, let me just go through a few things with you. You want to get the PDG free guide. So it's pdgfree.com. Why do you want to get it? Well, because we're going to show you how to do a vaginal infusion, ladies, and how, first of all, you go in and you disinfect with the infinite iodine. We're going to, inside the book, we're going to talk about how to put it in your eyes to help to reverse eye problems, to put it in your ears because of ear infections, to use it to nebulize, to actually get it in your bloodstream, in your brain, but to clean out your lungs. Listen, Terry can say what he wants, okay? But he has not worked with, and because he's a science guy, but I have worked with, you have no idea. I'm telling you, thousands of patients that have had lung problems from asthma to COPD to stage 4 inflammation in their lungs, okay? You name it. Doesn't matter the condition. The infinite iodine, nebulizing it, is beyond phenomenal. 1 part iodine, 3 parts distilled water. If you got a structure unit, then structure the water, and then work your way into just straight iodine and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. It is mind-blowing. It will do things that, you go to your doctor. We have people that have stage 4 inflammation, otherwise lung cancer, and within a few weeks, they turn their lung tissue around. I hope you're getting this. I didn't say it was a cure. There are no cures because these people are still nebulizing today, and they'll nebulize for the rest of their life. Why? Because guess what? Wouldn't you want to have the best lungs ever, to carry the most oxygen, to stay strong your whole life? Well, that would be the deal, wouldn't it? It's what you do daily that matters. It's gentle baby loving steps that matter. Please download the PDG free.com guide. It's called the Perfect Day Guide. And you can even buy it. We sell it for $6 above the cost of making it. It's $75 delivered to your door anywhere in North America. It's fairly big, and it's 550 pages, but it has everything you need from your nose to your toes and how you can take massive personal action. I'm serious, like the parasite party in it. I talk about and show you how there is a group of people that are going to continually poison the air, the water, and the food. And guess what? They feed on that. They feed on our suffering. I go through that. I show you it. I show you it logically, not fear-mongering. I go in and I talk about how to reverse the irreversible. I talk about the domino effect and how the large intestine is the holy grail. I show all of this. I show you what to do, right from how to do advanced water fasting to the ultimate coffee enema to therapeutic vomiting to vaginal infusion, okay? I show you so many different things. I show you how to reverse your gum disease. I show you how to reverse your intestinal problems. All of this is in there. This is my gift to you. And also, in a few weeks, we're going to be releasing the Braveheart Nation app. It's the only app of its kind. Please check it out. Please check out the app and sign up. Find your tribe. I have taken health apps further than anybody else has. We've been working on this for 2 solid years. We have a huge team working on this, and they've been working on this app for 2 years. Also, I'm in Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo, and I just want you to know something. This is our mainstay right now, and let me put it to you this way. 2 years ago, we were triple booked with people coming down for personal treatment and trainings. Couples will come down, learn how to do the non-surgical, learn how about unconditional love for themselves and each other, learn how to create the perfect day on a nutritional level, physical level, emotional level, from the moment they rise until they close their eyes. But we teach them non-surgical too. And this is the non-surgical guide that you get. When you leave here, you'll be better than any practitioner that you've been going to for body work. And I know you might think that that's arrogant of me, but it's the truth. You'll be able to work on each other where you might have a knee problem, you might have an ankle problem, a spinal problem, scoliosis, endometriosis. Oh, it doesn't matter what. I guarantee you that if you come to us for 7 days, we are going to teach you about how to have the perfect day. And also you'll be staying at our retreat where everything is organic. All your foods are organic. We will be juicing for you all day. We've got electric bicycles. We've got a beautiful structured pool, ozonated pool for you to swim in, beautiful bedrooms. There's a cleaner there for you every day if you want. Okay, you'll have all our energy medicine, our Cellsonic, our Cardio Med Bed, the Avicen, the Bioptron. You'll have the most powerful infrared, okay, light therapies there on this planet, okay? And all of this is for you to use when you come. You know, I ran the Ixtapa World Healing and Training Center. Sometimes we'd have 200 people there. Okay, we had 20 treatment rooms, okay, 2 floors, and guess what? It was great. I learned a lot, but now we're not doing it. Now we're only going to take, 2 couples at a time, or 2 families at a time, or 2 groups at a time. Dr. Sage Wolf, myself, and 2 other master practitioners, and we are going to not do quantity, but quality. So if you want to come to Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo, Mexico, please go to DOD5star.com and take a look and decide what personal treatment and training you like. Or maybe you want to come down for a juice fast. Or maybe you want to come down just for the advanced water fast. Or maybe you want to come down and just learn the non-surgical or just get the treatments and nothing else. It's all up to you. This is what we're doing. You can tailor the most unbelievable getaway, healing getaway, that will change your life for the rest of your life. And I truly mean that. So please check that out. And just know this, that we will be in Stuart, Florida. Okay, it's all the other courses, the only courses that we have room in right now to do are Stuart, Florida. That's in June. And that will be the Whole Life Coach certification. You don't just come if you want to do this for a living, be like a whole life coach emotionally, nutritionally, physically. If you want to rock your world and end the suffering on an emotional and physical level, you come and take this course. I will give you a money-back guarantee that I will help you crack the coconut from the inside out, and you'll know that unconditional love and care for yourself and viewing that for the rest of the world is the only way that you are going to break free from an invisible jail called enslavement. People are enslaved by their personalities. You do know that, right? You do know that most people can't take an inner standing for themselves, okay, and say, no, I don't eat that, I don't drink that, I don't talk like that, I don't watch that, I don't do that anymore. Most people don't know that there's strategies, okay, that you don't have to want things, you become things. Most people don't understand that the universe works for you, so you better watch how you speak. You better watch how you think and drink and eat. You better watch how you act. And you better watch your personality, because it's not your personality. If you're suffering, if you've got a disease, or if you're suffering emotionally, just know this: you are set up. I'm going to tell you something right now. You can hardly find anybody that's mastered their emotions. I don't care what the crisis is. I'm not going to get angry, and I'm not going to lose it. A lot of people go, well, you got to get angry so that, before everything works out. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you can love your life right now and love your life for the rest of your life. And don't buy into the BS of the majority, because the majority do not rule this world. The majority are being ruled by this world. Tell me they're not. Tell me they're not. You know what? There's nobody that comes to us, whether it's a couple, whether it's a small group, whether it's a family, whether somebody comes on their own, that doesn't leave and their life isn't changed for the rest of their life. We do knock it out of the park. You can go other places if you want. You want to spend a lot more money, you can. But if you check out our prices and what we're giving you, nobody's doing this. And the reality is guess what? We don't need a lot. We don't crave a lot. Because guess what? I live in Mexico. There's no chemtrails. There's no 5G. There never will be. Did you know that? And there's no chemtrails down here. And all the food's organic. Okay? The seafood's fresh. All right? You got to get this. And I'm going to tell you, there's no more peaceful place to come and visit. We'll pick you up at the airport. We'll bring you to the place. But first I'll come on Zoom with you, and we will create the perfect day for you. And we will create the perfect holiday for you. All right? Right from a dentist to a driver to what you want to do, we've got it all laid out for you. How would you like that? Just add water and stir, okay, and jump in the ocean, because the ocean's only 5 minutes away from our healing retreat. Anyways, I want to thank you for joining me. And the Infinite Iodine sale will be on for the next week. And it is on the 4 ounce and the 16 ounce bottles. And like Terry said, don't worry, it's not going to go bad. Once you've opened it, just put the lid on, keep it in your fridge. You're good for 3 years. Okay? And understand something. Trust me when I tell you, the nebulizing is going to rock your world. If you've got infection or you don't want infection, if you want healthy kids or you want healthy pets, you nebulize them. That's what you do. You nebulize them. Listen. You might think that I'm different. You might think that I'm a bit of a rebel. Well, I'm not a bit of a rebel. I'm all of a rebel. You're not going to hear the same thing from me that you've heard before, because guess what? It doesn't work. Does anybody realize that most of natural health has been watered down and it's superficial? Let me tell you something. When people come to us with a 10-foot hole, we give them a 10-foot ladder. And then we take it one step at a time, but we get them out of that hole. And there's no way that you're going to come to us, only if you say, look, I don't really want to see Dr. Wolf. I just want to come and chill out. That's cool. But if you come to us, there's no way you're going home and you haven't got a strategy from the minute you rise until you close your eyes. You are absolutely going to know everything that you need to do on how your friends, your family, society, and other systems are poisoning you, and they don't even know they're doing it. This has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years, guys. Okay? All right? And it's not going to change, but you can change. The world will never change. The world doesn't need to change for you to have the best day of your life, because when you learn to live in the moment and own it, that's when things change. When you learn that unconditional love and care for yourself is not going to send you to hell, but you will get judged by your family and your friends because they're not used to somebody actually caring enough about their body that they're not going to end up with an autoimmune disease or go to surgery or have to take drugs to numb themselves out because their personality is actually creating the disease. You heard what I said, and it's true. I'm good at what I do, okay? And understand something. All I want to do is share it. That's all I want to do. You need to find your passion, you need to find your purpose, and then you need to start gifting the world. Every one of us are a piece of the puzzle. And remember something, and I'm going to leave you with this. We were all created by the same creator. So I know there's division when it comes to language, when it comes to color, when it comes to religion. Okay? Somebody said to me just yesterday on a show, okay, what's my religion? I'll tell you what my religion is. It doesn't matter how I was raised. My religion right now, and until I leave this beautiful planet, is what? Unconditional love for everyone and faith for God above. You have a beautiful day. God bless.